Burnout. It is the plague of the car industry. Seriously, do you know anyone that's been in the car business for more than a couple years that hasn't been through some serious burnout? In this episode, let's talk about burnout and how to manage it. Because if you can better manage burnout, both for yourself and your team, you are truly going to stand out in this industry and be better than your competition. Find out how in this episode of Down Payment.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X. Welcome back. So are you physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically drained right now? If you are, there's a good chance you're in the car industry because that is normal in the car business. And that makes one of the biggest retention and productivity challenges that we face in this industry. It's one of the reasons that our employees are kind of a revolving door with new people in and new people out. Like, we really struggle with burnout in this industry, and it's something that no one talks about. The default solution to burnout that you see in this industry is to ignore it. And we do that to the detriment of our businesses. The successful dealership is a dealership that can manage burnout, can deal with those stressors, and keep people at their highest productivity as much as possible for as long as possible. And that right there is such a productivity advantage if you can find that in this industry. It's not easy, but you really have to start with the mindset of, I am not going to ignore burnout in myself or my employees. And if you have that mindset, you can do something about it and you can make great strides in dealing with it. So this episode has kind of two focuses. We got to talk about burnout in the context of recognizing and dealing with it yourself as the dealer or the senior manager or the leader in your dealership. And we have to talk about it in the context of dealing with it in your employees, your subordinates. So burnout, it's not just fatigue. It's one thing to be tired. You can get some rest and wake up and deal with that. It's emotional depletion. So this means that you're tired, you feel drained even after getting some rest. You're irritable, you're agitated, even during deals and times when you should be happy. You have a loss of motivation even during successful months and when things are going right. That's a good sign that you're dealing with burnout or that your employee is dealing with burnout. Why does it happen? Well, it's a product of chronic stress. It rewires the brain. Joy, connection with others, and your drive, your motivation gets suppressed. It's a biological phenomena. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's not something that you can deal with by ignoring it. You need to identify it in yourself, and you need to be able to identify it in your team. And your managers need to be able to identify it in themselves and in their teams as well. You want to have burnout management be a contagious factor in your operation. Everyone in automotive knows about it, and yet we have such a horrific tendency to ignore it or deal with it in really unproductive ways. Here's a few things that have been shown to actually help. They call them micro rituals. I like to call them tactical rest breaks. So this is where you give yourself a 5-minute breather. You need a little bit of a quiet place that you can go to without interruption for just a few minutes. And when you're really stressed, there's something called tactical breathing. There's a lot of different ways to do tactical breathing. I've mentioned it before on this podcast, but it is the one evidence-based thing that you can do in a short amount of time to have some good short-term benefit. One method, 4-7-8 method. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 7, and then slowly exhale over a count of 8. 4, 7, 8. You can teach tactical breathing. They teach tactical breathing to a lot of other audiences that have high stress environments in their workplace, such as police officers and firefighters. And automotive is basically just as stressful. Tactical breathing is a great thing to teach and ingratiate as a micro ritual. Another thing is micro journaling. Now, this is where you just have a little journal where you keep along. A lot of salespeople have little journals, little notebooks that they keep with them. You can use that for this. You literally, it's a short to-do list, and you write down what's important now. What is my focus for this time right now in my next 20, 30 minutes? What do I need to focus on? What's important now? One line each morning, super valuable. These little micro rituals are a good way to help maintain focus and consciously manage stress. Then another thing is having certain boundaries that protect energy. So saying no to extra tasks or identifying in your staff when it's not a good time to give them extra staffs. If their tank is low, you need to have the emotional intelligence to be able to identify this is not a good time to throw additional stuff on them. I need them to be able to manage what they've got now. You need to block out for yourself and allow your employees to block out a little bit of recharge time. If they're going without breaks day in and day out, their productivity is going to suffer. It's going to be to your detriment as the leader to not make sure that your employees have a little bit of non-negotiable recharge time. Normalize it across your operation. Use a decision filter. Does this task or does this job or does this assignment align with their energy and their position right now, how they're doing? Do you need to shift duties around? Do you need to give someone a little bit of an extra break? Do you need to be able to call them in and have a little bit of a coaching session with them? It's that real intelligent leader that is sensitive to those things that the employee is going to really appreciate, and it's going to help them better manage. They understand that they have a partner in the challenges of this job and that their manager or their dealer is looking out for them. Super valuable, and you don't see it very often in this industry. Finally, reframing the work. You want to have purpose attached to your business that's more than trying to make the dealer principal rich. You want to have growth potential for everyone in that dealership. You want them to connect with purpose. We want our dealerships to have a big community alignment. We want to have community activities going on. We want to have connection with the community. We want to have a lot of stuff going on that ingratiates our dealership into our communities as part of our overall marketing and public relations efforts. That is a great way to also build purpose in your employees, your staff. Celebrate small wins. If you have a great customer moment, if you have a successful sales day, a team laugh, a clean desk, all of that type of stuff are small wins, and celebrate those small wins. The car business is inherently challenging, but we got to focus on the positives. We got to be an industry where the glass is half full and not half empty all the time. And then build support rituals into your operation. We talked a little bit about them earlier, but you want to ingratiate support rituals where there's weekly check-ins with a teammate or a coach or a mentor or a manager, understanding where employees are at emotionally, burnout wise, being mindful of their emotional state and their challenges. You want to normalize emotional honesty in these interactions. Don't ignore it. If you ignore it in yourself or your team, it is to the detriment of your business. It's one of the things that quickens that revolving door of employees that we have in and out in our businesses. If you can stop that, if you can get a hold of that, you are going to be unstoppable as a dealership in this industry. With that, go work on dealing with burnout, both in yourself and your employees, and go sell some cars. Love to hear any other advice you guys have. Leave them in the notes. And with that, it's been another episode of Down Payment. Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.